braided and hung like this. Onions and garlic keep for the better part of a year. No fridge, no plastic. There are just 3 rules. Cure them right, hang them right, and never store them next to the one thing everyone stores them next to, because set them beside potatoes and both spoil twice as fast. The reason is an invisible gas most people have never heard of. That gas is ethylene. Onions release it constantly, and potatoes are uniquely vulnerable to it. Put them together in a bin under your counter, and neither lasts a month. Yet for centuries before refrigerators existed, families kept onions and garlic firm and fresh clear through to the next harvest, using nothing but air, twine, and a sequence of steps that starts the moment you pull them from the ground. The first step isn't braiding, it isn't hanging, it's curing. And if you skip it, nothing else will save your harvest. Curing is the process of drying the outer layers and the neck until they seal the bulb, like a paper shell. You spread the onions and garlic in a single layer somewhere warm, dry and shaded with moving air. A covered porch, a barn stall, a garage with a box fan on low. Leave them for 2 to 4 weeks. Don't wash them, don't peel them. Just brush off the clumps of dirt and wait. You'll know they're ready when the necks are completely withered and the skins rustle like parchment when you run a thumb across them. Pioneer families called this curing the necks, and they judged their entire winter pantry on the sound those skins made in late summer. But even a perfectly cured onion will turn to mush inside a month if you store it next to the wrong thing. And the wrong thing is in almost every kitchen in the country: potatoes. It looks harmless: a wire bin, a basket, onions on one side, potatoes on the other. But the moment they share air, 2 things happen simultaneously. Potatoes release moisture as they age. That moisture drifts into the onion skins and opens the door for mold and soft rot. At the same time, onions emit ethylene gas. Ethylene is a plant hormone, a ripening signal that tells everything around it to sprout, to age, to break down. Potatoes are exquisitely sensitive to it. Expose them to ethylene, and they wake up, throw shoots, and turn spongy. So the onions rot from potato moisture, and the potatoes sprout from onion gas. Both crops fail twice as fast together as they would stored separately. And most people never realize the basket itself is the problem. But here is the thing. Even if you separate them completely, there's a second enemy that attacks garlic specifically. And it's probably sitting in your kitchen right now. We'll get to that. First, you need to see the braid. Grab a bundle of fully cured onions, the necks dry as straw. Take 3 long, brown stalks and tie them together at the base with twine. Now you are going to build what old-timers called a rope. Lay a 4th onion alongside the center strand, then fold the outer stalks over it, left over center, right over center, just like a girl's hair, my grandmother used to say. Every 3 or 4 inches, tuck in a new bulb, keeping the plait tight, until you have a chain of onions that looks like a golden anaconda. Hang it from a rafter or a nail in a cool, dark pantry. The air will circulate around every onion, drawing away the last trace of moisture from the neck, and the skins will harden into armor. This method isn't just beautiful, it's functional. It allows you to inspect each bulb with a glance. One bad onion won't ruin its neighbors because they aren't piled on top of each other. Garlic is different. There are 2 kinds of garlic in this world: softneck and hardneck. Softneck garlic is what you find in grocery stores, the kind with a flexible stalk that withers into a papery tube. That stalk is the secret. While it's still slightly green and pliable, right after curing is ideal. You can braid softneck garlic. The same way you braid onions. The result is a stunning plait of purple streaked bulbs that will hang in your kitchen for 6 months, sometimes a full year. Hardneck garlic. The kind with a stiff, woody stem. Won't braid, it snaps. For hardneck varieties, you cut the stalk down to 1 inch and store the trimmed bulbs in mesh bags or wire baskets hung from hooks. The key is air, always air. The ideal storage spot is cool but not cold, 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, humidity around 65%. A root cellar, an unheated pantry, a cool corner of the basement. Never put them in direct light. Sunlight triggers chlorophyll production, and your garlic will turn bitter. Never seal them in plastic. Plastic traps the ethylene gas onions release, and that gas circles back and accelerates aging in the onions themselves, even without potatoes nearby. And now we arrive at the second enemy, the one that attacks garlic specifically. It's sitting in your kitchen humming right now, your refrigerator. It seems logical. Cold equals fresh, right? A head of garlic in the crisper drawer should last forever. It does the opposite. Refrigeration temperatures between 35 and 40 degrees trick a garlic bulb into thinking winter has arrived. The cloves begin converting stored starches into sugars, preparing for spring. Then you take it out to cook, and the warm kitchen signals that spring is here. The garlic sprouts. Green shoots push through the cloves, and the flesh turns rubbery and bitter within days. That sprouted garlic is still edible, but it's lost its sharpness, its heat, its reason for existing. And if you've ever peeled a clove and found a green germ running through the center, that's a clove that's been in and out of the cold one too many times. A whole head stored in the fridge can be ruined in less than a month. The same head, hanging in a braid in a dark pantry, will still be perfect when the first snow falls. Here is what the supermarket doesn't tell you. The average American household throws away nearly 40% of the produce it buys. Onions and garlic are among the worst offenders. People buy a bag, shove it in a drawer next to potatoes, toss the sprouted mush a few weeks later, and repeat. It's a cycle designed by convenience to sell you more onions. But go back 2 generations, and waste like that would have been unthinkable. A braid of onions hanging in the shed represented a summer's work. The difference between a full belly and a lean winter. No one was going to let that rot because they didn't know where else to put it. The knowledge was handed down without anyone writing it in a book. Cure them until the necks rustle. Keep them away from potatoes. Braid them for air. Keep garlic out of the icebox. That was it. 4 rules. And a family could eat off their own land for 10 months of the year. But even if you follow every one of those rules, there is a 5th danger that no braid can stop. It moves from bulb to bulb, invisible at first, and if you don't catch it, it will turn 100 pounds of perfect onions into a dripping, foul-smelling mess in 7 days. I am talking about neck rot, and the only way to stop it is a ritual old-timers, performed every 2 weeks without fail. I'll walk you through that ritual next. The ritual is simple, and you do it every 2 weeks without fail. Take the braid down from its hook. Work your way from top to bottom, squeezing each bulb gently just above the neck. A perfect onion feels like a wooden baseball. No give. If your thumb sinks even a millimeter, that bulb is softening from the inside. If the neck has the faintest yeasty smell, almost like old bread, the rot is already there, and it will spread. Remove that onion immediately, cut it out of the braid, and use it that night. 1 bad bulb left in place will leak its decay down the twine and into the next and the next. Old-timers called this weeping down the rope. and they knew a single unchecked bulb could spoil a dozen in a week. But even if you perform that ritual religiously, there is something you may not have considered. The onions you buy from the grocery store were almost certainly cured wrong. Industrial growers field dry them for a day or two, then load them into refrigerated trucks that drop the temperature too fast. That cold shock interrupts the curing cycle and traps moisture deep inside the neck where you cannot see it. You bring the bag home, hang them beautifully, and 6 weeks later you find every center ring has turned brown. It wasn't your fault. The clock started ticking before you ever touched them. That is why the old-timer way begins not in the kitchen, but in the field, with the seed you choose in March. There are onions bred for storage and onions bred for salads, and they are not the same plant. Copra, Redwing, Stuttgarter, these are the names you want. Their flesh is dense, their necks are tight, and they have a genetic resistance to sprouting. Stored properly, a copra onion will still be firm in July, a full 10 months after it left the dirt. Sweet onions, Walla Walla, Vidalia, Texas, super sweet, are heaven sliced raw on a burger, but they are all water and sugar. They begin to degrade the week you bring them home. And here is what the supermarket will never tell you. Most of the loose onions in the bin are sweet varieties, because they sell fast and taste mild. They are not built to last, so you take them home, assuming you can store them, and you lose half the bag before you use it. That's not an accident. It's retail math. And then there is the root cellar. The phrase sounds like something from a museum, but for 200 years, it was the most essential room in a farmhouse. Dug into a hillside or built into the north corner of a basement, a root cellar held a steady 55 degrees and 65% humidity year-round, with a dirt floor that breathed. The braids hung from cedar beams, and the family ate all winter. Modern houses, with their forced air heating and insulated basements, have erased that room. Your pantry is probably 72 degrees. Your kitchen warmer still. At those temperatures, the ethylene those onions are emitting speeds up their own demise, even with no potatoes in sight. So if you are serious about making them last until spring, you need a cool, dark space that mimics the old cellar, an unheated closet on an outside wall, a corner of the garage that does not freeze, a shelf in a dry basement beneath a vent. But the quietest threat in the room might be the one you never invited. Bananas, apples, avocados, tomatoes. They all release ethylene. The old-timers kept their fruit bowl on the opposite side of the house from their onion braid for a reason they could not name but understood perfectly. They learned by watching what rotted and what kept. Today we have the science, and the science says that a bowl of apples emitting ethylene 6 feet from your braid will shorten its life by weeks. So you separate them, just as you separate the potatoes. Just as you keep the garlic out of the refrigerator. Layer by layer, you build a system of small rules that together deliver a full year of onions from a single fall harvest. Miriam Zook, an Amish woman from Mifflin County, Pennsylvania, keeps a notebook in her kitchen drawer. It is not a recipe book. It is a planting and harvest log going back 19 years. Every August, she pulls her Stuttgarter onions, cures them on wire racks in the milking parlor for 3 weeks, then braids them into ropes of exactly 20 bulbs. She hangs them from the joists in the spring house. She checks them the first Saturday of every month. She has not bought an onion from a store since 2005. Last June, she used the final bulb from her previous year's harvest, and it was still hard as a stone. Her neighbor, a non-Amish family, who buys groceries at Walmart threw away 3 bags of sprouted onions over the same 12 months. The difference was not skill. It was a sequence of small decisions that started with choosing the right seed and refused to hand over the final step to a cold chain designed for transport, not for you. And that brings me to the part most people get wrong before they even begin. You can cure perfectly. You can braid beautifully. You can separate them from every ethylene source in the house. But if you pull your onions from the ground at the wrong moment, none of it will matter. There is a window of maybe 5 days when the bulbs have stopped growing and the necks have just begun to weaken at the soil line. Pull too early, and the neck never seals. Pull too late, and the onion thinks it is time to sprout again. That window is the difference between a pantry full of sound bulbs and a bin of green shooting disappointments. I'll show you how to read that signal from the plant itself, and it is something you can learn in one afternoon with nothing but your eyes. The signal comes from the leaves. About 90 days after you set the slips or seeds in the ground, the green tops that have been standing tall and rigid all summer will begin to weaken at the base, right where the stalk meets the bulb. They'll yellow at the tips. Then, over the course of 4 or 5 days, they'll fold over completely and lie down flat on the soil. That is not a sign of disease or damage. That is the plant telling you it has finished moving sugar into the bulb and sealed the base plate where the roots enter. The neck is at its tightest right then. Old-timers called this going down, and they walked the rows every morning watching for the first flop. Because the clock starts the moment those tops hit the ground. Leave them past that window and the neck reopens, letting moisture and pathogens into the bulb. 5 days too late, and you have lost the winter. So you pull them on a dry morning. Do not pull by the tops alone. You will snap the neck. Slide a garden fork beneath them. Lift gently and lay them on the soil with the tops still attached. If rain is forecast, move them under cover immediately. Let them rest there for a day. Then move them to the curing racks. The same rule applies to garlic. When the lower leaves brown and the upper leaves remained green, harvest immediately. For garlic, the test is in the clove definition. Pull one bulb, slice it crosswise, and if the cloves are fully separated and the wrapper skins are thick, it is ready. Wait even a week too long, and the bulbs will split their wrappers in the ground and refuse to store. Once cured and braided and hung in the right spot, the work is done except for that every other week squeeze check. There is something deeply satisfying about walking into a cold room in February and seeing ropes of onions and garlic hanging from the beams, the skins still crackling, the bulbs still heavy. It is the opposite of a grocery store bag sweating in the crisper drawer. It is food that waited for you to be ready for it. Now for something almost no one tells you, because it sounds like folk magic, but it is rooted in real physics. You can test the humidity of your storage room with a single onion skin. Take a piece of that papery outer wrapper and set it on a shelf near the bulbs. If it lies flat and crisp, your humidity is below 70%. Ideal. If the edges curl upward, the air is too moist and you need to increase ventilation with a vent or a fan before the rot sets in. If the skin droops and feels limp, the humidity is dangerously high, and you are in the zone where mold moves in. No gauge, no battery, just the skin of the plant itself acting as a sensor. The pioneers did not have hygrometers. They had onion skins, and they read them the same way we read a weather app. Here is the math that makes it all worth it. A single 50-foot row of storage onions, planted in the spring and harvested in late summer, yields roughly 75 pounds of bulbs, cured, braided, and hung properly. Those 75 pounds will feed a family of 4 from August into June, a 10-month supply with virtually no electricity consumed. The garlic row beside it, 30 feet long, gives you roughly 60 heads, 2 a week for the whole year. Together, they cost almost nothing to store. And they leave you with this: a pantry that does not hum, a food supply that does not shrink wrap itself in plastic, and a winter where every onion you chop came from your own dirt. That is the old-timer way. Seed to soil, to cure, to braid, to beam. It has no moving parts, no subscription, and no expiration date. And if you are sitting there thinking, this is only possible if you own a farm with a root cellar and 100 years of family knowledge, stick with me, because I am going to show you how to do every step of this in a one-bedroom apartment with nothing more than a closet, some twine, and a bag of the right onions from a farmer's market. So here is my question for you. What is the one thing in your kitchen you are moving tonight? The potatoes off the onion bin, the garlic out of the refrigerator, the fruit bowl to the other side of the room. Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And your answers tell me exactly what to cover next. Because this knowledge does not require a root cellar or 40 acres. It just requires you to stop trusting the plastic bag, a cool closet, a braid of storage onions, and a 2-minute squeeze test once a month. That is the whole system. No moving parts, no subscription, no expiration date. And if what you just watched made sense to you, if you felt that maybe we lost something simple that was never meant to be complicated, then there is a special offer waiting for you through the link in the first pinned comment. I put something together that I think you will want. Hit subscribe, because in the next video I am going to show you the root cellar you already own, but do not know you have. Until then, find your twine. The onions are waiting.